that so I know where that is. Let's get started. Today we're going to start chapter 2 after we go over the quiz. Wednesday we'll finish chapter 2. We'll have in-class assignment then on Wednesday. You have homework assigned on Wednesday through Monday. That's the usual routine at the end of the chapter. Then after that, next week we'll do chapter 11. Look how far we moved. Everything moved up 2 days, right? So I happen to, if you happen to open up that schedule, the sheet, the new dates are on the right. So I just put the correct dates on the far right if you want to look beyond the next quiz. Where are we starting today? We're starting with slide 3. You got it printed. Nope, that's not it, is it? Oh, this is slide 2. I was looking at a different PowerPoint. Huh. Anyway, spending and saving decisions, money management. Chapter 2 is all about money. Starting to get into things like a budget. That's usually when someone says, hey, I'm spending too much money, for some reason, I'm running out of money before next payday or something like that. They say, I need to get to a budget. I need to start a budget. So that's kind of everybody's first step usually when they're trying to manage their money better. So I want to show you an example budget, and we're going to go to page 56. From the 5th, or right around 56, you got an older edition. Here's what I want you to learn about a budget, is what happens when you compare your actual to the budget. I think I got to figure out what I'm doing here. Is this coming up? Can you guys see it? You start out with the money that's coming in. Payday, and usually people do budgets every month. How much you have coming in every month. Take home though, after taxes. So then, I always suggest putting what you want to save every month at the top of your budget after what you have coming in. Savings should be like a priority almost. And say my goal is to save $100 a month, $200 a month, whatever it may be. Then it's your expenses. Now you can do this in any order you want, that's usually what I do, but this example has fixed expenses, meaning this is something you pay every month, it's usually always the same amount, it doesn't vary, it's not like getting gasoline for your car, this is there, your rent, your, what else we got, property taxes if you own a house, if you have a car payment or a lease payment, that monthly amount is the same amount every month. And then, these are the things that vary, these are the hardest things to budget. Because you just don't know exactly. Food is always a hard one. What happened after I got out of college that really helped me put together a budget is I started using a credit card for everything, and it's so much easier to go back and look at what you spent money on when you use a credit card. Because you've got so much easier to find detail compared to trying to find the receipt in the shoebox that you should be using, right? Utilities, clothing, you know, you got all these numbers that you put there. Now, it's the end of the month, or the following month. This is what most people don't do, is how much did I really spend and compared to what they planned on spending. That's the most important part of the budget, is when you make that comparison. So if you look at, what is this? The mortgage payment. You expected to pay $518, you really did pay $518. Same with all these fixed ones. You knew the amount, so these are all have no difference from what you spent to what you thought you were going to spend. But then you get down to these variable ones. You planned on spending $402 on food, and you ended up spending $417, negative 16. I want to make sure you've got some homework assignments coming up where they're using the word surplus and thank you, deficit. Am I spelling that right? D-E-F-I-C-I-T, is that right? Yes. It's on the right-hand side of that, say, on page 57 on the right side. So, the most important part of this is, when you see this on your homework, it's going to say, here's how much was planned to be spent, here's how much really got spent. It's then going to ask you to find the difference and name it as either a surplus or a deficit. Here's what a deficit is. If more was spent than what was planned, that's a deficit. I mean, you got to find the money from somewhere else. You're in the hole because you spent more than what was planned. If you spend less than what was planned, that's a surplus. For example, right here. We thought the utility bill was going to be 172 because we looked at last year's for the month. Ended up coming in at 164. That's $8 surplus. That's $8 you could add to your savings now because you spent less than what you budgeted for. It's a surplus of money. So there's the definitions. Just prepare you for that homework assignment. This is like if this question's on a quiz, and it might be, it's just focus on calculating the difference and whether it's going to be called a surplus or a deficit, based on whether you spent less or more than what you thought was planned. Now, here's the really important one. I'm going to slide 10. Get back to slide 2 for a minute. And that's a balance sheet. The reason a balance sheet is so important, and you've got to get used to it, if you really want to know month to month if you truly save money or not, is you just don't go to your savings account and go, oh, look, there's more in there than there was a month ago, I saved money. Because after you graduate, you get into a lot of different things where money could be directed towards one direction or another, whether it be an investment or a car payment, or a house payment, or a down payment, or you bought an art piece that you think is going to gain value. There's all kinds of different things you'll do with your money than just survive. With that said, you've got to learn to be able to calculate your net worth right here. This is the true indicator if you are truly saving money or not, is whether that's going up or down. That's the true indicator. Net worth comes from a balance sheet. A balance sheet has all your assets, ASS, and all your liabilities, abbreviated here. Assets is the value of everything you own at the moment you're doing this balance sheet. So if it were today, today's the 3rd or 4th? Fourth. If it was today, it would be as of February 4th, 2019, and every asset. What is your car worth? Not what you owe on it. If you had to sell it today and you owed nothing on it, what's it worth? What is your, what else do you have? You could do your clothes, but are they really worth anything? How about your stuff? Stuff. Oh, what if you got a nice computer, like your laptop? All right. What if you had to sell it on Craigslist and you need the money fast, you want to sell like in one day, what's it worth? These are conservative numbers on the low side because this is really about what it's worth today if you had to sell it fast. All your assets. And the older you get, you just start accumulating more assets. You know, next thing you know, you own 200 shares in Fidelity, God, I can't think. Fidelity Healthcare Mutual Fund. And that's an asset because you own those shares. And you can look on the internet and see what the price is per share on that at the end of the day that closes, and you can put exactly the number there. And you may own another investment and another one, and how much is in your savings account, and how much is in your checking account. Those are assets also. Now, to make this look good, you put the assets at the top, and you break the assets into 2 parts, liquid and long-term. And I want to make sure that's the words being used here. That's the words I use. I got to make sure that these is, sometimes they use different words that mean the same thing. I'm going to page 49 where the example balance sheet is. At the top, liquid, and then other assets. I call it long-term. Real estate, personal possessions, investments, but liquid's on top. Now let me define liquid asset. Liquidity, liquid asset means you can turn it into cash right away. For example, a checking account and a savings account where you could just go to an ATM and get the cash, that's liquid. But if you own shares of a mutual fund, that's not liquid. You would have to either go online or call them, and then they have to transfer the money. Don't get me wrong. You pay a big enough fee, they might be able to get you the money right away within a few hours or half a day. But most cases, most people consider that being liquid because you have to go through a hassle to get the money. It usually takes a couple days. Liquid would be, if you notice the example, a checking account, a savings account, a cash value of life insurance. I wouldn't even put that as liquid because you still got to go to the life insurance company and have them process it and give you the check. So if you could get something cash right away somewhere, that's liquid. And then all your other assets. Look at the example. Market value of your car, your furniture, your appliances. If you own a house though, usually the appliances go with it. It should be the whole house. Is there a house on this one? Keep going here.
Yeah,
where's the house? Right there. Current market value of home, $189,000. If they had to sell their house, and try to sell it quickly, they get $189,000. Obviously, they owe money on the house, and any money owed on anything goes down here in liabilities. Liabilities is every single penny you owe, even if you wrote a little piece of paper that says, "I owe you to a friend $10. Thanks for that beer," whatever. That anything you owe goes under liabilities. This is broken up in two parts: current and long term. The definition of current and long term is if you owe and you are supposed to have it paid off in 12 months or less, that's called current liability. Key is it supposed to be paid off in a year or less than a year. Over a year, it's called long-term liability. A car is a long-term liability until you get to that very last year where there's only like 12 payments left. Now it's a current liability. Your house payment, you're making payments on a house and you've been paying out for 29 years and you have 1 year left. Now it's a current liability. All right. So a lot of companies, there's no accounting majors in here. Accounting major? A lot of companies will take their big assets or liabilities, and the amount they owe that they're going to pay in the first 12 months will be up here in current, and the amount they owe that they're going to be paying after the next 12 months is down here. They break it up in two parts a year. A lot of companies will do that. Current and long term. So the definition. So your net worth. Here it is. Assets minus liabilities equals net worth. Assets minus liabilities. Go ahead. Say it one more time.
It's basically like finding out owner's equity.
Owner's equity if you're doing just the house.
No, I meant like a...
Oh, on a company? Yeah, exactly. That's right. If you're looking at company shareholders' equity, you would then divide by the number of shares to get the book value. Yeah, but same thing. Okay. But when I first graduated from college, I wanted to know if I was saving money, and I started getting into investments right away when I graduated. Because when you graduate, I went from making $4 an hour, making $25,000 a year. For me, that was like, oh my God, that was a big deal. I couldn't believe it. When you're making more money, so poor in college. I want to make sure I emphasize this. No matter how poor you think you are, I was the poorest college student I have ever met. I was living on my own, trying to survive. But I learned to live on nothing. Kraft macaroni and cheese, I had it done in 5 minutes. Burger King, they go the usual. 2 burgers and a fry. That's all I could afford. If I could find bottles, Michelob Light bottles around the house. But what I'm trying to say is, you're making more money than me your whole life. Right away, I put together a balance sheet because I started investing right away. And because the reason I was able to save money is I had already conditioned myself to live on no money. And so even though I got this great job now, and I'm making more money than I made my whole life, I still said I'm not going to spend it all. I'm going to try to save as much as I can. And I was already in the habit of living like a cheap person because I had no money to live on that. And so you start getting into investments, you don't know if you're truly saving money unless you calculate this. Everything you own. So I had a spreadsheet. Back then it was Lotus 123. No one remembers that at all. You're going to ask something, but you calculate that net worth at the end of every month. And I know I still have that floppy disk somewhere. This old floppy disk somewhere, and I got an old external floppy hard drive in case I ever want to go back to it. Because it's so crazy to see how it's done, but that's how you truly know. And when I bought a house, I had a house to the asset side. My first house I bought with cash because I was a saver. So I didn't have a liability, but I went ahead and conservatively said this house is increasing in value about 2% a year. I would take the house value times 2%, divide by 12, and on my spreadsheet, I would have that new value of the house. It went up just a little bit every month. on the assets, and that's how you know you're saving money. Everything helps. The house that you own is going up in value. You subtract the car value every month. I'm subtracting at least $100 because that car is losing $100 in value, no matter if you had a car payment or not. That car is losing at least $100 value every month, at least. Question?
Okay, I'm sorry to bother you.
No.
I just want to make sure I hear this right. You said net worth is assets minus liabilities.
That's it.
All right, cool.
Assets minus all the assets added together, minus all the liabilities added together. And notice on this example, this family's net worth, who owns a car, owns a house and everything, is $159,000. Now, a lot of you are in your 20s and 30s, and when you're going to retire, I said you're going to be like 60s, maybe even 70, right? And this number right here is what you're going to live off of when you then finally say, I'm no longer going to work. And in your goal, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, is to have that be minimal, what did I say it yet? What did I say? I have not said this in this class yet? 1 million. Everybody hear that? That's your goal. Don't even give me a look like it's impossible. It's way more. The earlier you start, even if it's just $100 a month, $200 a month even, once you get that full-time job, you'll reach it. If you have the discipline, don't get into the psychology, hey, my neighbor just bought a boat, I've got to buy a boat. Hey, my neighbor got a snow, I've got to have a snowmobile. Do not get it. You know neighbors like this? Yes? Don't get into that. Instead, say, my neighbor's never going to retire. They look like they got a lot of money because they got a lot of toys. But if you got into their numbers, you realize they owe a lot of money. And they're never going to, and they're constantly going to be playing catch up. You want to be the opposite of that. And that's, this whole class is about teaching you how to get to that retirement as early as possible. And so when I turned 35, this was a long time ago, I left my full-time job and never went back to full-time work after that again by doing all this crazy stuff I'm teaching you. And I've been working only part-time from that day forward. It's over 20 years. And at first, I did all these crazy things of living on next to no money and saving as much as my paycheck as I could because I thought I wanted to own my own business. That was my motivation. And when I finally got to the point to where I'm almost ready to own my own business, I started thinking, look at how little money I need to live off of. Why do I even spend this money? And realized that I was already teaching part-time at night. I said, wow, I could just teach part-time. That's enough to cover all my bills and all this other money. I could just, try to build it up or whatever. And I realized I don't need a ton of money. I don't need to be filthy rich. I had conditioned myself by being so poor when I was your age, sitting there, couldn't wait to get out of college because I needed money so bad, that I conditioned myself to the point to where, hey, it was like becoming a contest. How much more can I save next year than I saved this year? Oh, how much more can I save next year? Because every year, most companies are giving you a raise. For me, it wasn't about, okay, what can I spend that on to bring me happiness? It was about how much of that raise could I save. I was always focused on how can I lower my expenses. You got to realize that this is going back to the 1980s, but we all had phones in our houses and apartments. Phones. That was how you got the phone. Was you had to go inside your house and answer it. Some of you probably never saw one. Is that correct? Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Okay. Well, back then, the lowest you could get that price of that phone was maybe $50, $60 a month. And I was so focused on why am I spending so much money on this phone? It seemed crazy to me. And then all of a sudden, Vonage came around. This was like the first internet phones. Anybody ever heard of Vonage? Really, only a few of you? That's it? That's how low their name awareness has gotten now? Because they used to have these crazy commercials all the time on TV. And using internet phone, you could bring your phone price way down. Well, that's all these things was about bringing down the liabilities, increasing the assets, and getting this as high as you can get it. And whatever you need to find to motivate you to focus on that number right there when you graduate, find whatever that is, because you need the motivation. It's so easy to get distracted thinking you need to buy something. And so what I'd always say to myself is when I was thinking about buying something, my question that I said to myself is, do I need that or do I want that? And once I realized a want was driving me more than a true need, that's where the discipline kicked in and said, okay, I'm not buying that. I got myself to say, I'm spending my money on my needs, not my wants. Because the wants only bring you such temporary happiness, and it fades away so fast. Has anybody gotten a new car before? Anybody drive around a new car? I can't tell you the first time I got a new car how great it feels to drive around a new car, but it wore off just like everything else does. You know those Christmas games you get when you're a kid, those games at Christmas? And the next year they've been already sitting in the basement gathering dust for the last 6 months because you only played with it for like 6 months. That's how it is with everything in life. Everything's just like those games, unless you need it. And whatever's driving the want that all my friends were wasting money on while I was being the cheap person, which will be on my gravestone, but you know, they're still working full time and hating life. You know, and me, I didn't have to set an alarm in I don't know how many years, unless there was some special occasion. That was the worst thing about working. We are not supposed to wake up to some loud, jerky noise that just doesn't seem natural, does it? I used to hate it. That was the worst part. And so if anything, get your motivation when you graduate to get this as fast as you can to as big as you can, just for the fact to say to yourself, then I won't have to set this alarm anymore. And believe it or not, you'll sleep a lot better. Because my alarm was so annoying that I would wake up before it would go off just to turn it off before it would go off. Do you know what I'm talking about, you guys? That's not right. That's not right. We shouldn't have this internal clock that's forcing us to wake up because we have this alarm that's about to go off. It's not healthy. And so it became more important for me to spend money on time than it does, you know, on a plane or on a really nice car or new stuff all the time. No, I'd rather be able to get some sleep. All right. Everybody got the balance sheet down? Everybody know what to focus on the balance sheet? There is no ifs, ands, or buts that this is such an important item that it's probably on your next quiz and your final. That's how important net worth is. It should be part of your future for the rest of your life. That's what you should be measuring, not just looking at how much, oh, my savings account went up a little bit. Right now, that's maybe all you got. How are we doing on time? We're doing okay. Balance sheet, net worth, we can make a balance sheet. Now, I want to point out a couple things on a balance sheet. Whoops, where am I? Right here. See where it says, let me think, this would be a better one. Where's computer? Yeah. I can't think of an example real quick. Okay, home computer, $1,400. You're going to have a list of items here, and it's going to say, you're going to be looking at an item, and it will say, home computer's value, $1,400. You have to then tell me, is that an asset you just read, a liability, or a cash inflow, or a cash outflow, which you're about to learn? There's your 4 options. If it says, home computer's value, $1,400, that's an asset. If it says, bought a home computer yesterday for $1,400, that's a cash outflow. Do you see the difference? I'm going to say it again in case anybody gets this. Bought a home computer, $1,400, you spent the cash. And that's what's being described there. But if it says home computer market value, $1,400, that's an asset. It didn't say you just spent the money, $1,400. It says that's what it's worth. It's trying to describe what an asset would be. So you say that's an asset.
So could it be both?
No. You spent, don't get me wrong, it's describing that you just spent $1,400 on the other one. If it just said, just spent $1,400 on a computer, need to add to balance sheet, now you got both cash outflow and an asset. But just what the words are trying to describe to you. Let me do another one, ready? Paid the heating bill, the utility bills at consumers here? Everybody heard about that consumer's fire when that cold thing went in? Okay. Huh? Oh, you got hit with it? You didn't have electricity? Was there anybody else that didn't have electricity?
They said that we had to turn our heat.
Oh yeah, turn it down. You kidding me? You can go to my house right now, it's always down. If you're a cheap person, you'll always have your heat turned down. I never turn it up. Usually it used to be 49 at all times. Not my bedroom. Not my bedroom. It was 68 in my bedroom, 67. But 49 out there. You know, out there. When I go 49, you know, now it's 50 something. But still, never goes over 60. Why? Because I don't spend any time out there. I spend time, in the winter time, I have my office in my bedroom instead of down in the den. And I use a space heater up there. And my utility bill sees the difference because I'm that cheap. All right, I was answering a question, I forgot what it was. Yes, you ready? Your utility bill comes. The sentence that you're identifying, whether it's an asset liability, cash inflow, or cash outflow, it says, you paid consumers $125. Exactly, who said that? It's a cash outflow because you paid it. It says you owe $125 on consumers. You haven't paid it yet. You owe it. Now it's a liability. One's describing what is owed. One's describing what you spent on it. But they're both the utility bills. Get it?
So would those go in like a separate column or outflows in a separate column?
Yeah, you know, you're about to. You're gonna. I may have like a 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 is an asset, 2, and you're gonna have a list of all these things. You put either a 1, 2, 3, or 4 next to it, and you can only put one number. What it's describing.
All right.
Okay, it's not that hard. Once you get the hang of these. So we're going to look at cash inflows and outflows now. So I'm going to page, I got to find it again, 52. There's a good example. If this were described on a quiz, this would be bought food at grocery store, $260, cash outflow. Now, if it said value of food in the fridge as of, I've never seen anybody put their value of their food in the fridge on their balance sheet, but if they did, let's say you got, for some reason you bought a bunch of steaks and they're all in the freezer, who knows, $300. Then if that's the value of the food that's already in your fridge, that's an asset. But if it says spent $260 on food for the month, that's a cash outflow. It's saying how much you spent compared to how much it's worth. Let me find another inflow here. Earnings on investment, $62. That's a cash inflow. You made money on investment. They sent you the check for the month, $62. Cash inflow. Cash inflow is pretty easy because it's either working income or investment income. You know, in most of these questions you're going to get on these homework on a quiz. Cash outflows, we'll look at how many different ones it could be. Let's go to another one here. Paid emergency hospital bill, $85. Cash outflow. Owe $85 on emergency visit at hospital, that's a liability. If it describes you owe it, it's a liability. If it describes you paid it, that's a cash outflow. See the difference? So what I suggest is on the next quiz, because I know you have these, you're going to identify your next quiz, have this open to this page and the balance sheet page, have them right next to each other if you can. You could just kind of line it up, and if I know that your homework in the back of the chapter, if you decide to look at that homework assignment, it's not as clear with the words, and a couple of them are hard to determine whether it's on the balance sheet or the inflow or outflow. You can't tell if it's something being paid or if it's the value that's owed on it almost. There's a couple of them. On a quiz, it will be obvious. The words I'm going to use on a quiz, it'll be for sure either a cash inflow or outflow or a balance asset or a liability. It shouldn't mix you up at all. It's either saying you're paying it or you're receiving the money, or it's you owe it or it's value. There it is. Assets, it's value. Liabilities, you owe it. You received it, that's inflow. You paid it out, that's outflow. Go ahead.
Would depreciation go in any of those groups, or is that different because it's not cash?
No, it's yeah, you're not really paying it out.
Yeah, like of any.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the balance sheet automatically only because you lowered the car's value when you redo the balance sheet because it's depreciating.
Or, you know,
But I don't know if depreciation you had to identify it. I wouldn't put it on there because it's not on a balance sheet. It's not on a cash flow or outflow. For a company, there's depreciation. Yeah, for a company, there's accumulated depreciation and so on. But not on a personal. Is there depreciation on this one? This is a pretty,
I feel like you could see that in the change between your net worth.
yeah,
But
on the changing net worth. That's exactly what's gonna happen, but it's not an expense that you're literally paying money for. What's, I'm sorry, what page was that balance sheet, you guys?
49.
Say it again?
49.
49. I'm way off. Wow. We're not gonna get to ratios today, so just so you know. So don't panic. All right. If see, depreciation's not on there. What will happen is where's the automobile value? Market value of automobile, 8,000. The following month it'll be like 7,900. The following month will be 7,800. It just keeps going down automatically because you're not really spending the money. But if the sentence said $252 paid on car payment, which part of it is kind of covering the depreciation, but most of it's covering the interest, now that's a cash outflow because you paid the car payment. But just the difference in depreciation is not money being paid out or anything, it's just you're lowering the value. You're also, now down here on the car, where's the car loan? There, balance on auto loan, 1,750. Well, the next month, you took the 8,000 on the car's value down to 7,900, but you also took this 1,750 down to whatever amount of your payment went to principal, your balance of what you owed on it went down. So both numbers go down, but the depreciation goes down more in most cases than the amount that went to principal on your payment. And that's why that whole assignment's about trying to bring that depreciation cost down, so that when you're making payments, you're staying ahead of the value, so you can sell it for more than what's owed on it. That's the whole point. Cash inflow, cash outflow, budget, balance sheet, daily spending. These are piling up so I can throw them away. These have been piling up during our time off. Because I get one a day. And you will too eventually. If you don't already. I got $1,000 on a credit card. I'm thinking about transferring to this credit card. The rules are you got to pay at least the minimum of what's due, the minimum due each month to keep the promotion. All right, and I do that, and at the end of the 12 months, I paid off in full. My question for you is, did I pay any interest on this credit card after I balance transferred it? Any interest? After I did it for 12 months, I made the minimum payment to stay within the rules. They're all the same rules, forget that part. What interest rate did I get on this balance transfer, and did I stay in the, whatever. What's the interest rate? I can't hear anything. 0%. Right there it says APR, which stands for annual percentage rate, for balance transfers, 0% introductory offer for 15 months. I said I'm going to keep it for how long? 12 months. So what rate do I get for the whole 12 months? 0%. As long as I make that little minimum payment each month that you get on the bill, it says minimum amount, as long as you pay that minimum, you're getting charged no interest. But when I made the transfer, was there a fee involved, and if so, how much am I getting charged, or at least what percent, if I'm getting charged at all?
3%.
3%. Right there where it says transaction fees, balance transfer, $5 or 3%, whichever is greater. So I know there's one person here who put $5 on the quiz. Whichever is greater, not whichever is least. So it'd be 3%. So how much would I pay up front? They've just added to the bill. So when I transfer 1,000, how much do I owe on my first bill? What does it say the balance is?
30.
How much?
30.
$1,030. Because I transferred 1,000, they add 30 to it for the 3% fee, and that's how much I owe now. And the bill comes and says, oh, you got to pay at least $35, right? And you pay the $35, and it all went to principal because there's no interest during the promotion period as long as you make that minimum balance. Minimum payment for the minimal amount. Then I'm getting, matter of fact, I'd wait till the 15th month, not 12, I didn't look at this one. I'd wait till the 15th month, and the money I had this invested right now, don't get me wrong, and rates are going up. And just a regular savings account in some places, you're making over 2% right now, which is unbelievable since it's been so low so long. But before the crash, I was averaging more like 5 and 6% paying 0%. That's called leverage. Companies do this
every day. This is how, part of the business world is always leverage, leverage, leverage. Company looks at money they can borrow really cheap, they know they can make money off it, let's borrow it. As long as whatever they're making the money on, that they make a higher percent on it than what they're paying on the loan, they keep the difference. That's how a bank makes money. They have people putting money in their bank, making money in the savings account. They're taking those people's money and lending it out for people who are taking out home loans and car loans at a higher rate than they're paying the people who are making deposits into the bank. And the bank keeps the difference called the spread. And that's how they make money, other than the fees they charge because you accidentally went over your balance on your checking or whatever the reason is. Banks love it. Because that fees is how they make a living. And the spread from what they pay to savers, what they get from borrowers. That's how they make money. And you can do it as an individual, and I did it for many years, as I talked about in that first lecture.
But you would need to have a better interest rate than the 3%, right?
Yeah, then zero. Oh, no, this $30 is a one-time fee. You have a whole 15 months that you get to make, let's say, 5% on the money, while you only pay, you're not getting charged any more money. Don't get me wrong, whatever 5% is, what is that? That 5% is $50. So in 1 year, you'd make maybe $50, and you had to pay 30, so it's not worth it.
But if it's only 2% today, then
Yeah, it's not worth it. That's right, you're not gonna do it. You would never do this. Before the crash, these were all zero. You wouldn't have that upfront fee. It was cost you nothing to get it, and nothing while you have it. Nothing. It was free money. They were throwing money at you. Free money, free money, free money. And then the crash. And maybe it's because of all that free money that caused it. Possibly part of it. Which right now, what's going to cause the next crash? Student loans, car loans. Car loans hit student loans hit $1 trillion. Car loans just hit $1 trillion. Most ever being borrowed on any of these loans, and it just keeps they keep getting bigger and bigger, and eventually it's going to catch up. The default rates are starting to grow right now, and Treasury bills. Remember, did we learn a little bit about what Treasury, that our U.S. government borrows money by issuing bonds and bills? Well, the rates on those are inverted, which we're talking about. That's it, you guys. I'll see you in 2 days. And we're going to have an in-class assignment, and then homework will be assigned. We're going to pick up on ratios in 2 days.